Welcome once again. I am the database guy. Please like and subscribe. These are all free to you. We're in our MS Access SQL Server database development course. This is presentation 7, video 2, and we are involved right now with forms. Okay, here's where we are. And we went through all of this sort of our last video. I'm going to come to the database right now. Here it is. Now, I did this for a reason. Originally, as you know, everything was set up in detail view. And detail view can be tricky because what detail view does is it replicates the data in continuous forms. Right now, if we right-click on our square box, go to Properties, we're in single form. One piece of data, that's it. We're also current record. We're only going to be in one record. And here we can allow additions and we can allow edits. If we were to take allow additions off, I just want to show you what the impact of that is. Let's see. No controls, because you can't add anything. I mean, that would make some sense, right? We'll go back to allow additions equals yes. And the control should come back on very nicely, and they do. Okay, so now the point, I'm going to save this for a minute. Okay, the point I'm going to make here, let us go to this one here. This is going to show us, oh boy, come on, there we go. Show us every single, let me close this one down. Every single book in the books table, right? Let's click on this for a moment. This label, copy it, come down here into our section here. We're going to use our arrow key and move it over. It will begin to extend that over here automatically, just so you know. Let's go and move it a little bit more. Give it some real estate. Okay. Control up, control and arrow up will be in small movements. We're going to go to now form view, and if you can see here, it will replicate that label everywhere. Not really what you want to do. You got to be aware of these things. Nope, don't save it. Okay, so we're going to open this up, go to design view. All right. Now, we're going to add our subform subreport. You can do it this way. There's more than one way to skin a cat, again, with Access. And that's what makes it a bit complicated for many people. We're going to select the authors, obviously. We're going to go none. We don't. What happens here is that when you connect a subform to a main form, if you have data, you want to connect the data correctly. And that's what this is about, but we're not doing that. We're in data entry, none. We're going to call it that name. We're going to take that away. Now, in a subform, by the way, if you click the border, let's see if we can get it right. It's a little tricky, but you click the border, right-click while the border is selected, go to Properties, and you can see the master and child fields. Here you can see the source of it. The name doesn't matter if it's the same. That's not going to impact anything. It's the only time, by the way, that a name of a control and its source, which is not its control source, but its general source, can be this name the same. Don't worry about that. If we were to click the square, as we have been for form, you would see the other information that we've always seen. Now, in a subform, you only have the source, the record source. Here, you have to click the border to find out what the name is and so on. We'll keep that in mind. And in terms of the data here, it also will have the source in it as well. We're at allow additions, yes, and allow edits, yes. Okay. Come in here for a moment, right click, properties. All right, I want to get rid of this for a minute. Our goal here, and by the way, please like and subscribe. I don't know if I said that before. Our goal here is to make sure that when the user enters an ISBN, that the ISBN automatically populates here. We don't have to. In fact, this ISBN would be hidden as well because we don't need to see it. We just don't. I want you to see it so you see what happens. All right. So how do you do that? Well, you could have VBA code after you enter the ISBN setting what the default value is here. I don't care for that because that to me, it's a more static approach. Uh, and it's not what I would want to do. So here from default value, we can do it from here. It's the same kind of thing. It's just that it's easier to work with. So we open up our little plus over here by our database we're working in, and we have all of our objects. We go to the forms objects. We go to the loaded ones because it is loaded. DEI main, and we come down to ISBN, and we double click. And what this is saying is in the forms group or objects, immediately find the form DEI main and get the value from text ISBN. Okay. So what I would do here, form view, is, so let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, Q, W, E. Well, let's put in a B and M, something like that. Now at this point here in code, what I would do is I would probably at this point have code that said requery. All right. I don't have to have saved the record, but just requery, which on keyboard is a function F9. And there it goes in there. Now I have to explain to you why this is happening. Let's see. N, oh, it does work. Okay. L. All right. So again, function F9. I think it wasn't really. And then we're going to write test one. We're going to tab over to 2000. We're going to select our publisher. Now we're going to validate these fields. By the way, if all 4 fields don't exist, we're not going to allow the user to commit this record. But if we tab over again, we're on the author. Now I want you to notice too, we go from the main, each one in order, to the author. We're going to add the author in here. Let's add an author. And let's add another one. Now, I want you to see in the table, now Temp should have the table in it. All right. And it does. And what about this one? We only have one. Why? Let us go into the next field. Now let's look at it. Now both of them are there. So what we have to do is have a lot of controls here. One of them will be the moment we create the ISBN and we refresh the tables, or the form, the subform, we're going to have a key on there that says add author. All right, now that ISBN will be hidden, by the way, add author. And the add authors field will be, for the first author, it won't be active. All right, it'll be what we call, and it's one of the properties of a control, is that will be not Boy, what is the term? Let's go into it and show you. It will be oh, it will be, let's see, disabled. Yeah, not enabled. Enabled will be false, right? I just didn't realize remember what it was. But anyway, so that key to add authors will be disabled or not enabled. You'll add in the ISBN. As soon as you add the author here, the first author, and you'll have to add at least one author in validation, and you come to the next record, let's say here, that add authors key will be disabled, the undo key, well, we'll call it a delete all key will be enabled, not undo, but a delete all, and I'll explain why in a moment, where you could delete all the authors and basically run a delete query to wipe everything out of here and requery the form, which you will get back the ISBN. And then what you would do would be to add, and then the add authors key will be enabled. In that case, it should be because there's no authors there. All right. Or you can not enable the authors key if you want to keep consistent. Just delete everything, requery, set the focus to the first author of the author's control. When you do that, you're now expecting your user to add an author, and they do add an author. And when that happens, then you go back to the whole cycle again. You add the author, you set focus to the author's control, the next control, the open control, and then you set the delete all key as active. And also we're going to have individual delete keys here to delete a particular author you don't want. And you'll be able to run that with a specified delete query. All right, so you'll see that and how it works out. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to save here. And we're going to close this. We have no way to close it, by the way. That's something we have to add in a command button again. So we're going to look here what we have. All right, so here's what we want to add. We want to add one book in and two authors. How do you go about doing that? Well, we're going to create a query. And the first query is going to be our append query. And we're going to append to, and it's in our current database. It's in the books table. Okay, that's great. And we're going to add in this. Now, I want to show you something else. I want to close this down for a minute. What didn't happen? Let's go back to create. Again, a lot of nuances with Access. Books. Okay. We go to an append query. I'm sorry. Actually, let's select all of these first. And then we go to the append query. It wouldn't have worked. If I just selected the table to append to, this would not have worked. You just would have had to manually do this, but let's do it here. And to books, click OK, and notice what happened. Actually, I got the wrong book, wrong table here. I'm sorry. Let's close this all. Close all. No. Oh boy. Let's go to query design, and let us bring in the temp table. Drag it and drop it. You can do it one of two ways. You can select it from the add tables. Let's table books. Wrong one again. You need the tables, not the links. So here we go. You could do it from here, or you could drag and drop it from here. Gotta love Access. 100 ways to do things, and all right. And of course, then we come up to our query design append, and that's going to be our books, and we're going to click OK, and look what happens here. We don't have a field here. These fields were the same. When it sees identical field, it will match it. Here we didn't have it, and it was our foreign key. All right. So I'm going to close this, save it, QRY for query, APP for append, data entry, and new book. I mean, that kind of tells you everything you need to know about that query without seeing it. All right. So we go into our queries, by the way, and there's our append query. We're going to create one more. This is a little bit easier. We're going to, on our tables, bring in our books temp here, right? And we're going to just collect the first thing, which is sort of a wildcard, which selects all tables. Then we're going to highlight delete. And that's really it. Close down this and hit the X and say, yes, we want to save it. Query DEL books, book new. So we're going to, hey. Now you may ask, and this is a fair thing to ask, what if I wanted to add more than one book? Well, it is possible. It certainly is possible. I don't know that you want to do it this way, but you could. So what you would have to do is, instead of cycling through one record, you would have to cycle through all records, right? And the way that it will be carried through is that in this form, rather than going to um, a current page, you could leave it as current page, but you would add the record as we're going to do, delete the temp table, and you start from. So you could just add one at a time. Now to do it 4 or 5 at a time is a little bit more complicated, and right now that's beyond the scope of what we're going to go into. Can you do it? Sure, you could. Uh, I'm not going to do it right now, but anyway. So we're doing this, of course, without code. So the first step in this is to append what you see here. Okay, so we're going to run this query. It's going to say, do you want to append one row? And by the way, these warnings we're going to set in VBA code not to show. They won't show. So the user has no idea. We're going to hit yes. It's going to append it. Now, what if we run it again? Got to see this. Thinks everything's fine. And then, wah, wah, wah. We can't do it because we can't have a duplicate primary key, which brings up the next point. When the user enters in that ISBN, what you will do as a developer is you will check it to see that it is not already used. If it is, you're going to blank out the field, you're going to, and you're going to do that probably as the first thing you do before you requery the form. So you got to have this sort of, and I'm going to show you that kind of pattern of developing, of doing a flowchart, which is very important for your work. So the first thing you'll do is check for a duplicate. That's your validation. The second thing you will do is, if it doesn't exist, great. Add it, requery the form, bring it into the subform, and go. You can do the same thing with your title to check if that exists. And if it does, you can warn your user, well, that title is here. And so you will then just warn them. You could have multiple titles, and it's possible, but why would you have the same title with a different ISBN? So you might warn them and say that title's already in the database. Please check it out. You could undo everything if you wanted to. That would be fine. But you need those two pieces there. Year, no big deal about year. And publisher is fine. You could run a check if you wanted on all 4 of these entries. But the publisher will be an ID, remember, and you will run a check and see if that entry exists already. If it does, you can tell your user you've already entered this book, wipe everything out. Um, but, you know, or just say you've entered that already and do delete queries for both the temp tables and wipe everything out and start from scratch. You have lots of options, but you got to go through your flow chart and your logic of it, and you should know it. Okay. So now let's go over to our tables, and let's go to our books table, and there you see test 1 has been entered. Now I'm going to wipe this out for a minute and delete it for good reason. All right, because I'm not going to run that just yet. Let's go into our design view. Now we're going to bring in another subform. And here, you don't have to do it from here, especially with the wizard being right. You don't want that to happen if you don't need to have it happen. Now for this case here, we're going to drag and drop, and you can do that too. And again, it's going to put in its little note there for its label. We're going to move this over just a little bit here. Let's see. We are going to, let's shrink this up just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. We're going to move it back over just a little bit. Let's see. I don't know how close we're going to get to this. And bring this back over. All right. Now let's, at this point, let us go to form view again. As you see here, we're only seeing one with this little bar to scroll down. Why? Why? What's going on here? It's because of the width of this as we have it set. One thing you're going to find with forms is we're going to have to expand this out a good ways, and obviously we can't go beyond. If we start doing that and going beyond the height or width of this form, we will begin to have some issues. Whoop, let's try it again. We got to get that little anchor. Doesn't like it. It's a little bit tricky. I don't have a mouse. I'm using my touchpad here. Oh, there it is. It was just there. There it goes. All right. And we'll bring that out like that. Now let's take, go back up here with our slider, go to our form view, and there we have it. All right. Now the reason why I wanted to do this, let's go back to our query. Now this here shows us all of the records. And as you can see here, they're in order. And it's doing this with a query. And we'll show you that in a moment. Now I have drop downs here, but I can't change anything here. This is not editable. It's been set to not allow any edits, just to view. Okay. Also, what I really need to do here is to not have any tab stops as well. I don't need them. Which let's, while we're on the subject, let's go to it, and we select, and you can multi-select some of these controls, but you have to have a right click, properties. You have to have something in which it is common to all of them. Tab stop says yes, we're going to say no, no tab stop. And we did it for everything. Very efficient. So now, if I run my tab, I only stop at my authors. I will not get into that subform there. And I have a little vertical slider here if I want to see more, right? So let's run the append query again. Only to run it once. And we did it. Now, let's also run our delete query. It's going to delete one now. We can only run it once. If we try to run it again, we're not gonna, no rows, nothing in there to delete, right? So normally at this point, you would then requery the entire form, which is function and 9. And let's see, function F9. to requery it. Oh, I know why. We're not in, and there we go. We're not in the main form. We were in the subform. When we did that, you see deleted here for function F9. We would be requerying all forms, by the way. And there you see test one populates into the new table. And we're there. Okay. So what you would then do would, you could do a refresh or a recalculate. Let's try function, I think it is F5. And let's try the F7 too. Oh, nope, that's not one. There's one to refresh, but you would run after your code. After you ran your delete query, you would requery the main form, the subform below it. And then what you would do is you would refresh the main form. I don't know what the command for that is. We're going to do a save here, and we're going to then go to design view and then go to form view. It's still going to say deleted. So what refresh does is it actually closes and opens it back up. So we're going to close it, and we're going to come back down to our form and come back in it again, and we're going to see that we had added our record. Let us just go to it, and I don't know what it is, Visual Basic. So let us go to the objects here, and these are not, I'm sorry, these are class objects. No, we're not looking at that. We don't have any things in forms, but let's go to, well, let's do it this way. Let's go to design view, and let us go to, well, let's just do it in here, properties, and we're not going to do any VBA now, but I just want to show you something in VBA. So you have the me dot requery or me dot form dot requery. Requery, okay, there's a me dot form dot recalc, and there's a me dot form. I think it's a refresh. Yes. So we have three of them. And what you would do is you would add it, you would requery it. I think by requerying it, you should be okay. Why it isn't working in real time is a whole nother thing. Let's get rid of this. We don't need to see this. And closing that down and closing this down, and we'll save it. And so we'll go to view again. And so now the only thing we're left with here, okay, is the author. And we're going to do the author append in our next video because there's a lot to cover on that. We're going to show you the same kind of concept as to how it will append. And let's go back into our tables just to show you. There should be nothing here, and there isn't. We wiped it out. Here we have our two authors in there. So we're going to show how those will append. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we connect, let's see, to a record and what happens. I believe if I click on each one of these records as I go, it'll change the authors, or it should, because it will change with the record I'm on. I don't have any tab stops here anyway. But in any event, you've seen right here now how to do an data entry, and each time we'll clear this out. Now, will we have any command buttons here to add a book? We don't need it. The idea is you're in the add books data entry. All right, a books data entry. And here we might say something about author. And here we might, you can if you want. Let's see. Well, in this case here, let's see. One more thing I want to show you. The rectangle. Let's see if we can put the rectangle around this to compartmentalize it and make it look good. No, we can't. Your reason you can't do it is because you have things in a header and in a detail. And I wanted to show you that because there are ways, believe it or not. I could have easily placed these in the details section and it would be fine because it wouldn't replicate. So if I did that, let's see if we can do that. I don't know if it'll let me drag it down, and it does. Okay, let's do it this way. Move this. Oops, sorry. Let's select all of them and move that down and select all of these. Whoops, Control Z. And that's an undo key on the keyboard. And now we got to drag it in. That's why we can't just use the up and down. Let's bring this up. Let's move this over and center it. Let us now take this, our subform. Oops, sorry. And let us drag it down. Select all of these, bring them down. Oh, that went off of that. Sorry. There we go. Let's try to even some stuff out here. Since this is a single form, it won't replicate what's in details, and we'll prove it. And let's get our box and place it around here. All right. We can color that border, by the way, whatever we want. Let's right click and go to properties. And this is a border, we call it box. Now, this is something here that should be named appropriately as well. All right, BX for box and data entry book. Or actually, data entry book, that's fine. And you can see here that the back style is transparent. If we were to put it as a solid, you would see and that we would have a problem here. So we right click here and we go align, not align, position, send to back. That's how you would do that. So you would have it in the background. We could make it whatever color we would want. Let us say, I don't know. No, that's not too bad. Let's make it something nice and soft. Again, aesthetically, I'm not very good with this. Let's make it that one. All right. So let's run that form to look at it. This is what you would have. Looks pretty nice, okay? And again, it won't duplicate. I could do the same thing with my author's table, and we'll probably give it polish as well. And let's see, we could leave it as is for now, but let's see. See if we can move this over just a little bit. And yeah, looks pretty good. So now, if I wanted to, I could put a button on the subform you see here. Okay, and I've done this before to edit an entry. If I hit that button, it will populate. First of all, it will delete whatever's in the temp table. Then it will populate the temp table with the new entry. Okay, and what will happen is I will go from adding a record to editing it. I will have a command button on there to confirm the edit. It will now know it's in an edit phase. based upon clicking the edit button in here, all right, and we'll do that. And when it does that, what we then will have, and we can probably make this smaller because we're going to not show this at some point. We can then know what we're editing, and then we run the update query to save it, which is totally different, but we're using the same temp table. But the action and the flow is different as well. So anyway, I'm going to stop here for this point in time. Like and subscribe. We're getting somewhere with this. It's really good. We're going to save this, by the way. And we're going to build upon this as well. So our next step here will be the authors, appending the author's data. And we want to append that right after we add the book and start fresh from that as well. Because what we're doing is we want to link that to the book. If we don't append that, it won't be linked at all. All right. And before we leave, let me see here. Well, yeah, query books here. And you're going to see now that, let's see. Right, we don't have any author in here. So because we don't, it will not populate this. I want you to see this. It's really interesting. We need to have the authors as part of this query. We don't, we can't see it. As opposed to this query, which is what's populating this here. And we have it in there. All right, so anyway, when we come back on our third presentation here, we're going to move forward even more. Wherever you are, have a great day, have a great evening, a great morning, a great afternoon. Like and subscribe as always, and I will see you in our next video.